Allow me to tell you what despair looks like. You're free. Ostensibly, you have time, and choices, and rights, and agency, a life of your own choosing and making. You signed up for this, so how could you not be free? You're not given any quota to meet, and you can keep working whenever you want, so you can stop at any time, so you're told. You set your hours. You control your life. It belongs to you and no one else. That's the reality that was marketed to you, but that's not the reality you see. Officially, you might be free, but in practice, you're compelled to work as a cog in a system that undermines that very same freedom. A system that will never work for you unless you give up your entire body and soul to it 24/7. So you find yourself always chasing your next job, in an unstable, ever-shifting job market, directly competing against your coworkers, and your monolithic, friendly-faced employer offers no support or contingencies should you find yourself unable to continue. The threat of injury, loss of life, or worse yet, loss of soul hangs over your head as you continue to pursue this thankless job, trying hopelessly to take back what little you can of the ill-gotten gains your betters have stolen from you, all while laboring under the acute awareness that you are ultimately disposable, that at any time you can, nay, will be replaced. But it's all completely optional. You signed the contract after all, and you're free to stop, free to leave at any time. Ostensibly, you might know this despair well, as I do. It's the interminable, routinely paralyzing despair that comes with being an Uber driver. But also with being a magical girl in the world of Huela Magi Madoka Magica. Madoka is a popular anime that is conservatively transgressive of the magical girl genre's conventions, which is very, very much by design, as it was made for mass appeal. It's also really damn good, and therefore everyone likes to yell a lot about how amazing and subversive and deconstructionist it is, because they can't just leave it at really damn good anime. And apparently, neither can I, because I'm just pathetic, really. Here I am, trying to ascribe some greater meaning to this cool show about magic girls with magical whirls. A meaning that's probably not intended, and possibly not even really there. That meaning being that Madoka's story is illustrative of capitalism's pitfalls, and the manipulative alien beings and their practices are an allegory for worker exploitation in capitalism. So, with that wild and wonderful cake of an idea having been freshly baked inside my toasty fresh brain oven, I'd like to serve that delicious cake to you. Let's dig in! As I foreshadowed earlier, Madoka is often praised for its dark take on a genre that most anime viewers aren't terribly familiar with. My last video about a magical girl anime confused some people, so I shall clarify some facts. The magical girl genre is a genre of anime and manga about ordinary girls with magical powers, who change clothes through the magic of animation, and fight personified forms of social ills, and or bad guys. If you'd like to know more, check out my Symphogear video, which talks about Madoka for a short time, and pretty helpfully explains some themes common to the magical girl genre in a way that confuses nobody. Anyway, if you've never seen Madoka, well, firstly, I strongly recommend watching Madoka, all 12 episodes of the anime and the sequel film Rebellion, in that order before watching this video. But if you'd prefer to ignore me for some reason, I'm going to start recounting the pertinent events of Madoka in 3, 2, 1. Some ages ago, a parasitic race of aliens known as the Incubators decided they needed more energy and started scouring the universe for a source of more energy. When the Incubators found out how young girls often have all of the feelings all of the time, they sensibly decided that Earth was the best place to collect more energy by using young girls as an energy resource. The universe is gonna burn out and die, and to keep this terrible thing from happening, the amount of energy being generated needs to be greater than the amount of energy being used to further the generating of more energy. The Incubators want to exponentially increase the amount of energy being grown within the universe such that the fire of the Big Bang won't go out. Still following? I hope so. Anyway, you're probably wondering how they do that thing. Like all girls, magical girls get sad. That's science. When they get sad, they give off energy. When they give off energy, they die. Well, they die, but first they get to make a wish upon an incubator, which serves as their only compensation for being taken advantage of in this racket. Keep in mind that at this point, they only think they're about to be made a super cool hero of justice, and haven't been properly informed under what terms this is happening because the incubators know they'd never consent to this. So the magical girl gets the wish, and then they get turned into a zombie piloted by an egg that contains their soul disguised as a piece of jewelry that powers their henshins. And when they get too sad, the egg will hatch, and their soul will turn into a witch, a very destructive and spiteful creature composed of their very bad feelings, and the witch goes on a rampage where it messes everyone up. So it's kind of like in Monsters, Inc., but just much more exploitative. It's a system that unscrupulously employs both the physical and emotional labor of children, although it wouldn't be any less exploitative if it weren't children, but children to gather power, which requires the continuous exploitation and eventual collapse of an entire planet's civilization to work. And the best justification the incubators can come up with for this crime is going on about how the universe will burn itself out in a few billion years or so. I know their whole thing is about how it's all for the sake of the big picture of the universe and staving off the apocalypse, but I think we can safely say Kyubey the Incubator doesn't care about climate change, as seen when they say this in one of the many timelines whose events the actual main character, Homura Akemi, overwrote with her time travel power.
I'm estimating it'll take her no more than 10 days to destroy the planet. Oh well. It's humanity's problem now. We've pretty much filled our quota and have more than enough energy.
Who's this in the service of exactly? Cause it sure ain't magical girls, or humans, or Earth now, is it? And what happens when the incubators decide that no, actually, all the energy they got from alternate timeline world destroying witch Madoka, the context is complicated, that all the energy they got just isn't enough. Then they'll go to some other planet to keep prolonging their existence for existence's sake. These uncaring parasites. Late in the anime, the ostensible main character Madoka and the supporting cast find out about the true nature of this exploitation, and we see two different scenes in which Kyubey explains the incubators and their intentions to Madoka, in the most charitable way possible. They speak of how it is only natural that humans are exploited, citing how humans treat livestock as a flimsy justification for their unethical actions within their imposed artificial hierarchy.
We treat humans with much more respect than humans treat their livestock.
You do it too. That makes it okay for us to do it. For the record, I'm a vegetarian, and I have my own opinions on the ethics of raising animals for slaughter and how it's usually done, but none of those opinions, or whatever opinions you might hold on the matter, are relevant because, it's a simple fact that humans are not equivalent to cows. Chickens are not equivalent to ants. Lobsters are not equivalent to magical girls. What constitutes the ethical treatment of humans is an entirely different question from what constitutes the ethical treatment of other animals. So, yeah, this is a pretty lame argument, the essentialist argument that this exploitation is all okay, cause you're all just cattle. Kyubey's second argument is also flaky. They claim that the incubators actually helped humanity develop further, because many of the past magical girls were important historical figures who advanced society further, and that if the girls hadn't become magical, they'd have never made those advances, and no one else would have in their place, I guess. Therefore...
If your kind had never come to Earth, then none of this... The truth is, you humans would most likely still be living naked in caves.
This sounds reasonable until you think about it for a second and realize that all it really boils down to is, we were there when you did great things, so we'll just take credit for that, for being there. That's it, they were there, and there's no evidence offered that the girls becoming magical girls made them any more likely to do any of these things. I mean, there's no way to verify it one way or the other, but given how Kyubey is a lying liar who lies and doesn't have any problem telling half-truths to make their arguments stronger or more appealing, I'm more inclined to believe that they're just bullshitting up a rational argument since by this point in the story, the cat's out of the bag, and they still really want Madoka to be a magical girl so they can get that sweet, sweet energy. Kyubey tells all this to Madoka in a patronizing, arrogant tone, and as Madoka pleads basic human decency, their response is, "But look, how great we are, how much we've done. How you have such great potential to generate the most energy ever for all of us, for the greater good of the universe. How so many magical girls before you laid down their lives to build the life you're enjoying now. That comfy bed, those lovely stuffed animals, and now we're asking you to give your life away to us for our great reasons. You should be honored, you ungrateful little millennial. Billionaires are good, actually, because they boost the economy and create jobs. Awesome, fun, completely optional jobs. So they say, so we're led to believe. They don't. They don't do either of those things. And even if they did, that doesn't excuse all the other garbage they've done and the fact that we're garbage to them. That the cool, fun jobs we're given, or rather, manipulated into taking, are just nicer looking avenues for exploitation. All of us. Fuel. Just more energy to burn. Once, a lifetime ago, Homura Akemi and Madoka Kaname died together. And thereafter, Homura leaped across timelines to save Madoka, reliving a single month over and over, seeking out the one outcome that would allow Madoka to live. Now, with indelible determination, Homura fights and loses, again and again, never stopping, never relenting, never once allowing herself to display a hint of vulnerability. But she can't win. She can't. It isn't until after she has turned back time dozens of times that she learns that this whole time, she's only been making Madoka a higher value cog in the machine. All of Madoka's many fates in so many different timelines, all colliding, converging, as the system becomes centralized on her. All Homura has done this whole time while trying to fight against the system is enable its atrocities. Her spirit slowly eroded, her will sliding away, as she fails for a final time to save the world. She knows she can't lose, for Kyubey will then win, but if she tries again, it'll only get harder, and despair sets in. Despair.
That's enough. You've done more than enough, Homura. Madoka.
It's Madoka in the end who finds the way out. After all Homura has done, all the life she has given, it's Madoka who now knows, thanks to Homura, what she must do to save everyone.
I wish I had the power to erase all witches before they're even born. Every witch, past, present, and future. That wish!
This wasn't the plan. This wasn't supposed to happen. This is a transgression of the system, not a violation of the letter, but certainly a violation of its spirit. But Kyubey can't claim to understand such values, having been so committed to the incubator's facade of fair transactions and honesty. Something they cannot go back on now. They now hold none of the cards. So Kyubey is forced to concede to Madoka's own exploitation, the exploitation of the loophole they tried so hard to cover up. And so, it is done. Madoka takes upon all the despair of all magical girls across all of time, takes control of the law, no, becomes the law of cycles, as Madoka becomes not simply Madoka Kaname, the girl, but Madoka Kaname, a myth, the epitome of hope. That's cool then. Problem solved, right? Story over, so you might think. But of course, then Madoka went on to become an international hit, a critical darling, and make a lot of money off of merchandising and spin-off manga and gacha games, and of course they had to make more of that sweet, sweet cash. So they did. They went and did the thing. They made a soulless cash grab sequel. And it was, all told, one of the greatest, one of the most contentious, one of the most baffling anime films ever made. Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica, Hangyaku no Monogatari, called in English by the translated title of The Rebellion Story, or simply Rebellion, is the third film of the Madoka film series, the first two of which recap the original TV anime, and as such, it functions as a continuation of the continuity shared by, and sequel to, both the recap movies and the anime series. It is a film that many people have many takes on, and many feelings about. It is a film that I too once had a take on, but I don't have that take anymore. Okay, so here's my new take, or I guess, new cake. Rebellion objectively slaps. This movie is a beautiful work of art, a spectacular audiovisual experience, and unquestionably one of the greatest works of not just anime, but of all animation ever. It features a beautiful, sublime story that neatly follows from the anime into perhaps one of the smartest and most daringly transgressive sequels ever made. That's not a popular opinion among the fandom, by the way. They're pretty divided on this movie, and I'll get to that. But at the core of Rebellion's story and its transgression is one simple question. Was Madoka's wish a good thing? And if so, for whom? Spoilers, it wasn't. Rebellion is a weird film, despite objectively slapping as I so claim. It's a difficult film to watch, and can even appear inscrutable on first viewing on account of its unorthodox creative decisions. However, I found the second time around, knowing what to expect, all of those weird things I thought were strange and weird made sense. The slow burn pace of the film, the apparent non-sequiturs of the narrative, the seemingly contradictory message that apparently negated the TV anime's ending, all suddenly clicked for me, felt natural, felt organic. Not only as its own film, but as a coherent and sensible continuation of the series. The film opens in an apparently continuity-negating alternate reality, where all 5 members of the core cast, who never appear simultaneously on screen in the original TV anime, are working together as magical girls to rid their city of monsters. There's one point the film wants to make clear in this first act. Everyone is happy. No one remembers the events of the TV series. As the second act sets in, we as an audience, experiencing Homura's point of view, feel increasingly uneasy. Strange, dreamlike viewing angles and odd imagery overtake the scene, and the sense that something is not right pervades all that is in this world. So Homura investigates and begins to remember. This is not how it should be. They are, in reality, trapped within a witch's labyrinth. So it's like the Matrix, basically. There's even some kick-ass gun fu. Like, seriously, look at this shit. This rocks! But hold up, we need to answer the question. Was Madoka's wish a good thing for Madoka? Well, no. Madoka's decision to become a god, the concept of hope, the law of cycles, cut her off from her normal human girl life, the life she very clearly asserted at the beginning of the series that she treasures, that she would never throw away for anything, ever. And she reaffirms that in this movie, when she quite clearly and explicitly tells Homura that if she were to do that, to give up her family, her friends, her life, she would want someone to stop her.
I wouldn't go if I couldn't see you guys again. I know I don't have the courage to do something like that, even if I didn't have a choice.
And someone almost did stop her. Her mother, Junko. But Madoka convinced Junko, confidently, that she was in fact doing the right thing. And she was. She turned her back on her family willingly, consciously, in the interests of all magical girls the world over. The decision to leave her life behind was not a decision made lightly. So, was it good for Homura? Also, not really. Homura treasures Madoka as her one true love. She is just as affected by Madoka choosing to cut herself off from the normal human world as Madoka is. She gave so much of her mind and body to save Madoka because she loved Madoka that much, wanted Madoka that much, cared for Madoka that much. Homura wanted Madoka, and as with Madoka and her family, would only have chosen to leave Madoka behind if it were the only way. And at the time, it was. Madoka made her sacrifice so that Homura could live, and not only Homura, but all magical girls across all of time. Homura understands what Madoka gave up and why, and respects her decision, and for much of the second act of the film, fights to honor it.
This farce is wasting the sacrifice Madoka made for us, and I won't allow it.
No, it wasn't good for Madoka, and it wasn't good for Homura, but it was good for all other magical girls, so the wish was good, right? Ultimately, Madoka's wish yielded a net good for the world, and I think we'd agree that that was good. The ending of the TV anime certainly thinks so. So why then, if Homura understands this, does the film end the way it does? It seems like it's only undermining the story's happy ending. That was the conclusion I initially came away with, and the conclusion many others seem to have come away with as well. But this was what clicked on the rewatch for me, after nearly 2 years of having sat on my feelings of the movie for so long. The ending of this movie makes sense, not just for Homura's character, as many have hotly debated, but as a logical evolution of the status quo the TV anime left us with, and with a potential 4th movie as a setting of the stage for a satisfying conclusion to the story Madoka has weaved. Before long, it's discovered that the labyrinth is not the normal labyrinth of a normal witch, but rather one localized within Homura's soul gem. The labyrinth's perfect happy world is a manifestation of Homura's desires for her ideal life with her fellow magical girls, and it was Kyubey who manipulated her into creating it and bringing in Madoka and the others. As they explained to Homura, the goal was to force the law of cycles to manifest itself in a closed environment, that being Homura's soul gem, so that they could observe it from within and collect data about it and hypothesize how they might circumvent it. And they're doing this because...
In our humble opinion, you should all conclude your existence by transforming into witches.
Madoka's new system, while sound, doesn't garner as much energy as the old system. It only garners enough energy, and the incubators, as we've established, don't want some energy or enough energy. They want all of the energy. Not for any practical reason they can give, but just because they think it's natural that magical girls should be exploited to yield the largest amount of energy possible, and then some. They don't need a reason, they're parasites. And in the service of this mission to find a way to bring back witches, they're doing this experiment on Homura. And of course, Madoka and her cohorts rescue Homura, and we get a really awesomely animated sequence where Homura breaks out of her witch state, and Madoka comes down to Earth to bring Homura up to the heavens to become one with the law of cycles.
Madoka. Come on, let's go. From now on, we'll be together.
Okay, class, time for a pop quiz. Was Madoka's wish good? For Madoka, no. For Homura, no. For magical girls in general, obviously. For Kyubey. That's why this movie happens. This wasn't the plan. Madoka exploited a loophole in the system that the incubators were counting on being hidden, because uninformed prey is easy prey. Their response, thusly, was to exploit the loopholes in Madoka's system right back at her. The loophole only existed and was able to be exploited because Madoka's new system only changed so much. It left intact the core components of the old system, magical girls, incubators, and soul gems, and simply substituted Madoka for witches. And when the incubators realized that they could still exploit what remained of the old system to restore it back to what it was, to deprive magical girls of their rights once again, they jumped at the chance. Homura realizes when she's told this by Kyubey that the incubators have got to go. As long as it requires soul gems and the incubators to operate, the system will be open to exploitation. The system cannot be modified. It must be replaced entirely. So, Madoka's rescuing Homura. What will happen after that? Well, the status quo will be restored. The law of cycles will continue unabated until the incubators find a way to undo it. Madoka's wish was preferable to the old system, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good for Madoka, it wasn't good for Homura, and while it was good for all the other magical girls, it won't guarantee their safety and their happiness in the long run. And that's why Homura does this.
Homura? Now. I've got you.
Homura has other motives for doing this, of course. She wants Madoka, and she knows that, divorced from her responsibility as the law of cycles. Madoka wants Homura, too. Much ink has been spilled about how this ending reads as manipulative, possessive, evidence that Homura is disturbed, dangerous, destructive of either herself or Madoka, or both. I don't consider those readings invalid, but the notion that Homura has antisocial personality disorder is not my realm, and it's not what I'm seeking here. What's important is that Homura does this, at least in part, because she has now seen the result of exploitation of Madoka's system, and finds the system's flaws too glaring to ignore. So she takes over from Madoka, rewrites the laws of reality once again, and swears that she will make the incubators do her bidding, as, for the time being, they remain still a necessary component of the system.
Hey, do you have any idea what you've done?
I do.
This upsets the current order far more than Madoka's changes did, and as Sayaka makes quite clear, Homura has upset laws that are considered essential, inherent to the universe, in the name of pursuing her desires. But this is what she's always done, isn't it? In the name of saving Madoka, and trying to eliminate Kyubey from the equation. And though she could perhaps try to work together with Madoka and the others to reform the system, well, I think the TV anime demonstrates pretty clearly that she has some serious trust issues. Sayaka sees Homura as dangerous for doing what she has done, and Homura accepts that. She's prepared to be seen as evil, prepared to fight Madoka and the Law of Cycles, and undo and remake the universe should she see fit to do so in the name of the ideal future she sees. Rules and laws be damned. She's going to seek out a better world for everyone, and if that makes her evil, then so be it. A lot of people in the fandom think this movie was unnecessary, or even go so far as to say it's garbage because of how its ending went, how it seemingly undermines the ending of the TV anime. Buckets of ink have been poured onto this film and its conclusion, trying to understand what this means for Homura, for Madoka, for the future of the series, if it means anything at all, and some folks seem more or less to have just given up.
Opinions of Madoka Rebellion are pretty divided, which isn't surprising as the film is a total clusterfuck. The first act plays out like one of those alternate universe funtime OVAs that a lot of other shows get. It's basically a bunch of fan service. Even if I can see Homura doing it, I don't really grasp why she was capable of becoming the devil. I'm not necessarily saying that the movie didn't explain it, but if it did, then it went over my head while I was trying to wrap it around what the was actually happening in the film's third act. I honestly can't enthusiastically attempt to analyze this movie in a meaningful way, and I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with me.
All of these criticisms, positive, negative, neutral, or doing the thing where they try to pick apart the anime science of what happened here, they've got one thing in common, and that's that none of them can imagine a fourth movie. A sequel to Rebellion has been announced, but not released, and after 6 years, its status is something of a mystery. In March of this year, Shaft producer Mitsutoshi Kubota stated in a tweet that a continuation is indeed on the way, but when it's coming out is still unknown. Shaft tends to be a bit, shall we say, erratic with these things. In any case, most people have no clue how the fourth movie or sequel TV series will follow Rebellion up, and many seem to have presupposed that it's just doomed to be terrible because Rebellion was that bad, or because Urobuchi won't be involved. Well, here's what I think. Rebellion left the world of Madoka Magica in a state of chaos, the chaos that Homura finds preferable to the current order. But this chaos cannot be permanent. It will be upset eventually, and with it, the world will change once again. If my reading is right, Homura will try to phase out the system altogether, rather than modify it as Madoka did. And if she succeeds, the sequel will leave us with a world where there are no more soul gems, no more incubators, and no more magical girls. Or, if there are magical girls, people will be magical girls because they want to, and not because it's an unpleasant thing that they have to be manipulated into doing. And there will be no more despair. So yeah, I guess. That's what I have to say about Madoka? I guess so. Alright. Thanks for watching then, and if you'd like, please click the like, subscribe, and bell buttons, and please follow me on Twitter. No, apparently, please follow me on Twitter, because according to YouTube, they won't show anyone's videos to anyone anymore, and you have to follow them on Twitter to find the videos. That's lame. Who the fuck? Anyway, if you're in a charitable mood, please go to my Patreon and give me money for these things. When I reach $100 per video, I'll do a really time-consuming, intricate, in-depth video about Shaft's other famous thing, the Monogatari series, that I've been planning for a long while, and when I reach $1 million per video, I will become a magical girl. I mean, a girl can dream, can't she? I hope you have a wonderful day.
I started a forest fire today. All of Maine, Nova Scotia is in flame. Hey, I breathed my life into this place. You could see from 1,000 miles away. Red, like the blood I shed, took dance within the embers of my soul. I made this special one for you. Tarantulas all glisten in the twilight of the coming night so cold. I made this special one for patiently for you. The stars in my head, they scream with light and energy so cold, but sat here patiently for you. I still feel so old. But I still feel so